Good evening, everyone. My name is Chase Borowitz, and tonight on Channel 5 News, we are going to talk about whaling. Here's Jack Marshing on the scene with the history of whaling. Jack.
The history of whaling is one that dates back over 400 years. The first account of whaling was in 1607 by an Englishman that observed a whale hunt by Native Americans. The first type of whaling for profit was shore whaling on Long Island in 1640. When everyone realized how valuable the whale oil was, the industry exploded with large whaling ports across the Northeast by the mid-1700s. In 1712, Nantucketer Christopher Hussey killed the first sperm whale, which yields much higher quality oils. This discovery forces the whaling industry from the shore to much further out to sea. At sea, the technique used by whalers was to get attached to the whale and wait it out until the whale tired itself out from trying to escape. Once the whale had slowed down, the men aboard the boat would go on to slaughter the whale and drag it back to either the main ship or shore. The Revolutionary War took a serious toll on the industry when the British continuously attacked American whale ships. By the early 1800s, some whaling communities had recovered from their losses suffered during the war, but many operations chose to relocate to Hudson, New York. The War of 1812 had similar effects to those of the Revolutionary War. Ships continued to be destroyed or captured by the British, and only Nantucket continues to send out voyages. At this point, Nantucket is the whaling capital of the world. By 1820, the whaling industry is forced to go to oceans off South America for new whaling grounds. At this point, the Pacific Ocean is becoming more popular to American whalers. Also in 1820, the Nantucket whale ship, the Essex, is rammed and destroyed by a giant sperm whale. This is the first time a sperm whale exhibits this kind of hostility. In 1823, New Bedford's whaling fleet is greater than that of Nantucket for the first time and becomes the most prominent whaling port in America. By 1846, Nantucket has descended from the top of the whaling industry once they can't harbor the large boats of the time. This is because of a large sandbar by the mouth of the port that makes it too shallow for these boats. In addition, there is a large fire on the island that cripples Nantucket to the point of no recovery. In 1850, New Bedford reaches new heights as it becomes the wealthiest city per capita in the United States due to the whaling industry. Also at this point, the Arctic Sea is found to be a whale-rich area. In 1853, the whaling industry peaks with total sales of whale products exceeding $11 million. In the mid to late 1800s, the whaling industry is on a steady decline that begins with the discovery of petroleum and then continues with the wreckage of over 40 ships in the Arctic Sea. The overall decline of the industry continues until the International Whaling Commission finally bans commercial whaling in 1986. Next is Jake Loeb to tell you a little bit more about the parts of the ship.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jake Loeb, presenting to you about whaling ships in the 19th century. Over time, whaling in Nantucket has been an industry that has seen a great decline since its peak in the 19th century. Today we will take a deeper look into the functions of whaling ships to gain a feel for what it was like to be aboard one of the most prosperous industries of the 19th century in the Northeast. This drawing illustrates the ship Essex sailed under the command of Captain George Pollard. We will explore the facets of Pollard's ship, which was attacked by a ginormous sperm whale while out at sea. Four of the most commonly seen whale ships among this time period were ships, brigs, barks, and schooners. The ship is a vessel with three masts, each with a topmast and a top-gallant mast and square-rigged on all three masts. Ships often carried 4 boats, sometimes 5, and had the largest number of crew. Unlike the ships, brigs are comprised of only 2 masts, mainly used on shorter voyages. Barks are most similar to ships in their 3-mast composition, but were more efficient since they required less crew to handle sails. Lastly, schooners were the smallest rigs built with only 2 scales. Whaling ships were the homes for around 30 men who were living out of them for voyages that could last up to 4 years of their lives. Whaleboats are approximately 30 feet long and 6 feet in width. Their light and durable nature makes them easily maneuverable. The boats are equipped with a single mast, sail, and rudder, as well as oars and paddles. The actual killing of a whale involves 2 tools: the harpoon, whose purpose is to fasten the whale as it has a jagged tip, while the lance is meant to pierce into the whale, killing it. The boat header, usually one of the mates or even the captain, stood upon a piece of wood across from the stern, takes command of the boat, and handles the steering oars. The harpooner or boat steerer pulled the boat oar up to the front, while 4 or 5 crewmen rowed with the oars measured equally to around 16 feet so the boat could be at equilibrium. Now let's take a look at what it was like to be aboard the Essex ship. There are three types of sails on a whale ship. The mizzen sail is the sail farthest back of the boat, with part of it going past the stern. The mainsail is one of the most important sails, and is found in the center of the ship. Lastly, the foresail locates itself in the front of the ship and is attached to the jib and flying jib on the bow. Directly beneath the poop deck of the Essex is the captain's cabin, where the captain and the two mates stay. The steerage room is under the center of the ship, where all the white crew members sleep. African American crew members slept in the front of the boat in the forecastle. The blubber room is directly beneath the try-works, which boils the whale blubber into rich whale oil. The hold is the lowest part of the boat, responsible for storing all the whale blubber, barrels, provisions, spare sails, and rope. Unfortunately for the crew of the Essex, the hold room was severely damaged, costing them their food, oil, and almost their lives. Now let's send it back to my co-worker, Chase Borowitz. Chase will now tell us about whaling and how it is used in society today. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, Jake. Hello, everybody. My name is Chase Borowitz, and I'm an expert on modern whaling. Whaling has become far different than what it was in the 1800s as the technology has dramatically advanced. The harpoon on the modern whaling ship has been modified to make whaling more efficient. Sven Voin from Tonsberg in Norway created the modern harpoon, which allowed sailors to hunt the largest of baleen whales with ease. The modern whaling harpoon consists of a deck-mounted launcher and a projectile, which is a large harpoon with an explosive charge attached to a thick rope. The spearhead is shaped in a manner which allows it to penetrate the thick layers of whale blubber and stick in the flesh. It has sharp spikes to prevent the harpoon from sliding out. Thus, by pulling the rope with a motor, the whalers can drag the whale back to their ship with ease. Whaling has become extremely efficient nowadays. However, there has been a massive decrease in the need for whaling in the world. Whaling was largely popular in the 1800s and early 1900s, but whaling has since stopped in several countries around the world. Minke whales are now the only legally hunted species and are used for their blubber and the oil that they release. In 2014, Japan was banned from hunting whales in the Antarctic due to the fact that they were lying about doing research and killed the whales for resources instead. The United States no longer participates in whaling, except for 9 specific groups in Alaska who only catch about 50 whales a year. Whaling has become very controversial, and in 2010 there was a meeting that involved 88 member states of the International Whaling Commission on whether or not to lift the 24-year ban on whaling to promote population growth. Japan, Norway, and Iceland strongly urged that the ban be lifted. However, the ban was not lifted, and there has been tensions between both sides ever since. Whaling today is very different from whaling in the 1800s. The Essex did not have the technology that exists today, but was still a very successful whaling ship. Now to Sophia Giardina on the movie that is coming out in the future about the journey of the Essex.
We were headed for the edge of sanity. Like we were apparitions, phantoms. Trust gave way to doubt, hope to superstition. Tragedy of the Essex is the story of men and a demon.
Based on the book by Nathaniel Philbrick, In the Heart of the Sea will be making its way to theaters. It was set to come out in March, but director Ron Howard thought the December release date will encourage more people to see it. The film shows the true story of 21 men and their voyage from Nantucket to South America in the year 1820. The reason for their trip is to hunt sperm whales and bring back the oil. In the beginning of their trip, they encounter a huge storm that knocks over the ship. The next big incident they faced was being attacked by a sperm whale, damaging their ship even further. The men feared cannibalism during the trip as resources were scarce. They were often dehydrated and in bad physical shape because of it. A theme to look out for in this movie is the idea of survival. These men have survived starvation and dehydration while being tossed around at sea. When they finally did stop at an island for some time, they still had small luck collecting resources. While on the water, the men lost all hope with food, so they had to eat their dead shipmates. This is going to be an exciting journey to see on the big screen in December of 2015. Some of the amazing cast includes Chris Hemsworth as Owen Chase, Cillian Murphy as Matthew Joy, and Benjamin Walker as Captain George Pollard.
Thank you for watching Channel 5 News servicing the Northeast. I hope you took away from today learning a little something about whaling and its vast history. Remember to tune in next week as we tackle the ongoing series of whale attacks in Japan. Jake Loeb and Channel 5 News signing off. Before I go, stay classy, Westchester County.